Well, God is certainly a God of surprises, as we heard in Mark's Gospel today. I'm sure when Jesus took Peter, James, and John on a trek up the mountain, what then happened must have been a complete surprise to them. Let's be clear at the outset, I'm not going to even try to explain what happened. I don't think we need to know, but we do need to think about what this event actually means for us and how we might react to this uncovering of who Jesus Christ really is, when today we're offered a glimpse into Jesus's true identity. A theophany, which simply means God choosing to demonstrate something of his true nature in Jesus, who is far more than the expected long-awaited Messiah of the Jews. Here we see that the human Jesus was also fully God in a truly radical way. The three disciples, who were particularly close to Jesus, experienced the removal of the veil of Jesus's humanity, albeit briefly. We're not sure how long it took. What they saw was his divinity. Wondrous, frightening, powerful, and unexpectedly rich, richly connecting all ages. Remember the presence of the prophets Elijah and Moses with Jesus? It provided real enlightenment. Jesus' external appearance utterly changed. No magic or illusionary tricks at play here. Simply our truly amazing God at work. It must have been absolutely terrifying, yet also completely enthralling at the same time. No wonder Peter, in his usual fashion, blundered straight in, wanting to preserve the moment. Just think for a minute of a past event that you've experienced which really impacted you. Perhaps the birth of a child, an amazing act of kindness, or perhaps the relief of suffering. I can still, even though it's many years ago now, vividly remember a moment when I pulled back some curtains and I got for the first time a view of the Atlas Mountains, which literally took my breath away. Well, I think what happened must have been like that, but perhaps to the power of a million or more. It must have been truly beyond anything that they could have ever imagined. As I say, we don't need to understand what happened. Instead, let's just allow ourselves to be drawn towards what is abnormal, unnatural, like the burning fire that doesn't consume the bush that we know of in Moses' first encounter with Yahweh in Exodus, and like the fire Elijah hoped for and received from God on the altar that he drenched in water to win the bet against the prophets of Baal in Kings. The Transfiguration places Jesus in the lineage and honour of the two prophets who stand beside him there on that mountain. Yes, the disciples were terrified, but they still sought a way to remain in his presence, even though they were frightened, not wanting the moment to end. I can't help thinking that this might be the closest description I know of in how I'm hoping I will be feeling when I die and are brought into God's presence. And then the cloud appears, another manifestation of the divine, with the voice that reminds us of the voice from heaven that we heard earlier on at the beginning of Mark's Gospel, when it was Jesus' baptism. Here, though, the voice isn't speaking directly to Jesus. As before, remember when it said, "You are my son, the beloved, with you I am well pleased." Well, no, this time it speaks directly to the disciples. "This is my son. listen to him? Well, it also strikes me that listening requires active engagement, not just passive witnessing, either then or now. Now, right now, is the time perhaps to decide and declare, even aloud maybe, our intention to follow where Jesus leads. Much as we might, just like the disciples, may want to remain in the moment when we experience a wonderful sense of God's being present with us, we too are called to treasure and enjoy such moments, but that's never an end in itself. We're called to move on, strengthened by the experience, and to carry it with us into serving God in whatever way he wishes. The disciples, witnessing the wonder they had, were also told that their job was not to remain in that place of wonder. Instead, they were to go back down the mountain. The voice in the cloud was directed at the disciples, and also, therefore, at the church and to us individually, to speak of Jesus' identity. The whole point of the Transfiguration, which, remember, did not in any way at all alter who Jesus was, but rather it provided a new understanding of who he really is, through being seen outwardly in a different way. That helps our hearts and minds to glimpse the brilliance of eternity. It also helps us to come to terms with our own humanity, to humbly recognise our utter dependence on God. It allows us to gain a right balance, if you like, in our relationship with God. The scene actually ends with the word dead. Jesus has embraced his identity as one who will die and be raised. He's signalling the journey ahead, and as he and the disciples move to leave that mountain. They trail all the way back down. And just as we too are to leave such experiences, and particularly at this time of year, perhaps move forward thinking about the cross, which is approaching as we walk through Lent with him. I want to leave you today with a statement which I think, it's not my statement, it's one I read, that I think brilliantly summarised what today is all about. And I want to pose a challenge for you. A challenge which is to honestly consider what implication this knowledge has on our lives. We might think about it in the song that follows, but I'm hoping we might take it ahead with us over the next few days, perhaps even as we're eating our pancakes as we prepare to enter Lent. And the statement is this: Jesus is who he is, not because he defeated death, but Jesus defeated death because of who he is. I'll say that again. Jesus is who he is, not because he defeated death, but Jesus defeated death because of who he is. Amen.